Okay, what we're looking at in this video is a standard examination task when you're doing your A-levels in Germany. You do them, one of the subjects that you have to do it in is English, and for some reason, one of the tasks that they always give you is they will present you with a picture or a cartoon or a quotation, and you have to spend 5 to 8 minutes talking about that. They expect a high level of English, not necessarily academic English, but certainly not informal English. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the task where we have to describe a picture. Now, there are essentially 4 components that they want you to include in this task. The first one is the introduction, and that means in 1 or 2 sentences, you essentially give the examiner the big picture. What's going on in this picture? What is this about? That's the first step. The second step is you go into a more precise description where you isolate and drill down on the elements that are in the picture, and provide a level of detail in your description so that a blind man would have an idea of what is going on in this picture. After that, you go into an analysis and an interpretation. Now, interpretation is sort of this deep meaning behind the picture that you have to glean based on your analysis. And the idea is that the artist or the photographer is trying to say something to you. This picture should say something to you. So what you have to do is you have to take a look at the elements in the picture and analyze them. You know? If there's a lot of gray, does it mean that the artist is trying to convey sadness? Look at the contrast. What sort of emotions does this evoke in you, and why does this picture evoke these emotions in you? Once again, we're trying to get back to what is the artist trying to say. So with that, we have covered analysis and interpretation. We've got an idea of what the message of this picture is. And from that point, we move on to evaluation, at which point we can bring in some points of criticism, how well we think the photographer composed the elements or arranged the elements in this picture. Did it actually get the job done? If not, we can explain why we think there could have been other elements in it to make the picture stronger. Or if you think he did a good job, you can explain why you think he did a good job. And all of that rounded out should take about 8 minutes. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some pictures in this video. We're going to look at some standard phrases that we can use to sort of help us do better when we have to do our A-levels. Because oral A-levels can be very nerve-wracking. You're speaking in front of a public, and of course you're afraid of making mistakes. And right now I'm going to tell you that don't expect that you will not make any mistakes. There will be slips of the tongue. There will be times when you have to correct yourself, and all of that is okay as long as you're doing it in a fluent manner that is similar to the way a native speaker would do it. And if you analyze this video, you would see exactly how I did it, because my English was not perfect. However, it was fluent, and I'm almost positive I would have gotten an A on my Abitur. Introduction. Say 1 or 2 sentences to summarize the main aspects of the picture. Add any extra information you know, such as the artist's name, type of picture, where it was taken, why it was taken, and you should also briefly say something about any emotion it evokes in you. Some useful phrases include the photo, sketch, portrait, etc. was created by and published in. In the picture we can see, or in the picture you can see, the main focus is on, it gives a detailed, realistic, dramatic, shocking view of. The picture was obviously composed to show. My first reaction, my first thought, my first assumption when I saw it was. From there, you go into your description and describe the picture systematically. Imagine you're describing the picture to a blind person. What important elements do you need to mention? What background is needed to explain the picture and its message? Use the present progressive when you describe activity in a picture. Use the present simple to describe setting and circumstances. Describe any speech bubbles and captions, body language, facial expressions, elements, relations to one another. Useful phrases include: on the left-hand side, we can see; on the right-hand side, we can see; in the foreground, in the background, in the middle, in the center, there is, there are. The perspective is from above. The perspective is from below. The perspective is from eye level. It's from the side. It's a side view, a close-up, a medium shot, a long shot field of view. Your analysis and interpretation. Describe the message conveyed by the picture. Is it aimed at a target group? Was the picture intended to have a certain effect on the viewer? If so, how was this achieved? Say how light, colors, focus, and perspective are used to support the message. Try to detect any fake elements. Has the picture been manipulated? Does the caption or meme text create a different context if you're dealing with something with a caption or a meme? Useful phrases here include: there's a contrast between, blank is clearly visible, whereas does not stand out so much. The eye is drawn to. The photographer presents something as something. It's black and white. The something emphasizes the contrast between two things. The light, the colors, the position of, the elements of create an atmosphere of tension. Interpretation and evaluation state whether the picture is effective and which elements are responsible for its success or failure. If it's an historical photo, compare the original effect it may have had with the one it has now. If asked, give your personal opinion and thoughts on which topic the picture represents. Useful phrases here include: the overall effect of the picture is to, the picture reminds me of or is symbolic of, is a non-stereotypical view of, because it is effective, it moves me deeply, because. This black and white photo looks like an historical photo documenting the horrors of urban warfare and the bravery of common people. The main focus is on the distance between the two antagonists: a young unarmed man standing in the middle of the street with his back to us, looking down the barrel of a tank rolling towards him. In the background, we can see a crowd of faceless people out on the street. To the right of the people in the background, we see a building with smoke rising from it. There are trees along the street, canopies outside the building, and it reminds us of a street that you can find in any large European city. Just in front of the crowd of people is a large tank rolling down the street, so that we are looking down the barrel of his gun. The entire background is a bit out of focus, but we can still make out soldiers riding on the tank and another soldier walking down the road next to the tank. There are civilians who have also come out onto the street. Cutting the picture in half from top to bottom are railway tracks, so that there's a clear and direct path that the tank is rolling down. There's a street lamp pole lying across the tracks at an almost perfect 45-degree angle. In the foreground, there's a young man standing with his back to us. He's facing the tank and the soldiers moving toward him. His arms are crossed in defiance, and his body is stiff and upright. There's debris scattered around the street, and just in front of the man's left foot is a dark patch. It could be a small bomb crater, it could be oil, or it could be blood. The perspective is eye level, which puts us directly between the young man and right, behind the young man and right in the middle of the action. The eye is immediately drawn to the tension and space between the tank and the young man. Our attention bounces from man to tank, from tank to man, back and forth. It's the empty space between them, filled only by the railway tracks, that is the true focus of the picture. The photographer presents us with the universal tension between war and peace, defiance and submission. The contrast in the picture could leave us hopeless. It is indeed dark, but there are natural elements of light. The young man's collar sticking out from his sweater, the white stripe on the tank. On each side of the railway track, we have dark patches. In the background on the right, there's fire, and in the foreground on the left, there is perhaps blood. An atmosphere of destruction reigns, but there is a glimmer of hope in the defiance of the young man. The original effect was to offer hope to a war weary population, to ennoble the struggle against tyranny. It's a common theme in human history. This picture speaks volumes, but it may be speaking volumes to a generation who's lost any sense of nobility, sacrifice, and defiance, not just in the face of danger, but in the face of death.